a patsy in the Walmart mass shooting crime. Was it all a setup, fake news, a lie? They said he drove from Allentown to El Paso with a rifle in his hand. Wasn't he living in San Antonio? They said he uploaded a manifesto on 8chan with the racist brand. But he's not a racist. And then the witnesses, they saw the scene of more than one man, one in jeans, a few in black wearing masks, and some with army rifles in the mall. Applaud the media stall. Oh my, oh my. They didn't say Patsy couldn't speak until about 6 years old. They didn't say he hit himself, autistic in special ed, we didn't know. They didn't say his hands were awkward and his motor skills were slow. Patsy, was it all a ruse? Patsy, did they paint the news? With your name in blood and the story spun, were you the fall guy when the deed was done? Patsy, were you just a pawn? Was the truth withdrawn? Zero income, that can't be, doesn't add up. He bought an AK-47 online with no money in his cup. They didn't ask why he had zero income, zero needs for a wealthy boy. Like a child, he signed Patsy on the line for millions on the taxpayer's dime. Lawyers went cha-ching, millions and millions for an evil scheme. Patsy, was it all a ruse? Patsy, did they paint the news? With your name in blood and the story spun, were you the fall guy when the deed was done? Patsy, were you just a pawn? Was the truth withdrawn? They didn't show the footage clear of what the camera saw. They didn't mention his El Paso family, how his brother married a Mayela. You know his judge's manager's daughter. Y'all, what the hell is that all about? Who taught him how to aim and fire? Who guided his unsteady hand? A patsy who struggled just to speak, now part of a deadly plan. Was this a dirty political screed, a way to attack Trump's accelerating speed in a world of cartel terroristic organizations? Was it on that day a diversion to keep accountability away? Did they need a patsy for their plan? Patsy, 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 he surrendered not once but twice. His timing wasn't precise. Police didn't even bag his hands. Patsy, was it all a ruse? Patsy, Patsy, tell me, was it all for the news? They didn't even read his nice rights. Justice for Richard Halliday.
Hi, everybody. Okay, I'll get this. I'll get this one day. One day. Okay, see if you can all hear me now. I know. That is crazy. It's 1,855 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room. And his life was taken brutally. There's no question about that anymore. That has been confirmed. That has been confirmed over and over again. In April 24th, 2024, the evidence was so overwhelming that they declared Richard deceased. And the paperwork clearly put him on Fort Bliss when he died. So that murder was on Fort Bliss. And then in January 24th, 2025, President Trump, 4 days after he took office, knew all about this case, knows all about this case, declared Richard killed in the line of duty. So a combination of all the paperwork, it makes it very clear. The evidence is overwhelming to the Board of Inquiries, which, treated us wrong. I'm going to be very honest with you. They did not let us participate in the second Board of Inquiries, which was illegal. Um, and so, it wasn't like they were in favor of Richard, in favor of us. It was because the evidence was so overwhelming, that we had gathered, identified the crimes, documented the crimes, and filed the crimes with many, many institutions, that they had no other choice but to say the truth. We drove them to the truth, um, because, if it looks like a duck and acts like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. And Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss in the line of duty. And just recently, on August 6th and August 7th, we received two letters. Um, on August 6th, President Trump's plan, um, these letters are from the President of the United States, Donald John Trump, and they were from the White House. And the first letter was about his policies, to absolutely get accountability, to seek the death penalty. And the second was, um, the just to absolutely pour out one praise after the next, on our son. Absolutely putting it in the National Archives that our son is a hero, that our son deserves the total respect of the entire nation, that he was uh, loyal to the core to the United States of America. And we, as our family, we have a very, very proud history of serving the United States, of serving our community, um, and making America a better place. You learn in Boy Scouts. My dad was a Boy Scout leader, even though he didn't have sons. He volunteered, and my mother volunteered, of course, with PTA and with Girl Scouts, with Brownies and Girl Scouts, and we were, just the Americana. Now, my dad, all my grandparents spoke German. Um, my dad's family immigrated to the United States, and my mother, uh, of course, met my father when he was stationed in Germany, through a cousin, and they were married, and she came to the United States, and right away at White Sands Missile Range, where I was born on the range. I was born on White Sands Missile Range, which is a very, very big deal. It's a very big deal because very, very few babies have ever been born on the range. And I was not born at William Beaumont. I was not born, no, not in William Beaumont. I was born at White Sands on the range. And my mother worked very hard to learn English. She did not know English when she came to the United States. She worked very hard to learn English, and she went to her citizen classes, and she passed. She passed, and she became a citizen of the United States right there in El Paso. And, it was just, as you can see, I just posted up a picture of her, how beautiful my mother is. My mother is very, very beautiful. And just we call her Omi. Uh, and of course, she and my father traveled to to Kansas, to Fort Riley to see Richard graduate. Richard, uh, didn't tell us that he was a distinguished honor graduate. It wasn't until the graduation ceremony um, uh, that they, or I think right before, he told my parents that he was a distinguished honor graduate. He wasn't a braggart, he wasn't at all. He's a national hero. He's dedicated to selfless service. He is totally loyal to the United States. Could never be compromised in these 5 years of attacks and all of this, trying to just even compromise his name. They were totally unsuccessful. They couldn't compromise him. He has a sparkling record. They tried. They tried to set him up. They tried to tamper with government documents. Um, and well, they did tamper with government documents, but every attempt that they made, even Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, every attempt that he made, with a billionaire behind him, right? El Paso Community Foundation. Woody Hunt is behind him. Woody Hunt is up to no good. I don't care if he's a billionaire or not, he's up to no good. And, you know, that doesn't leave you in a good spot. It doesn't leave you in a good spot with your name. And your name is very important. Um, it's very important to our family, a name. And Woody Hunt's name is very tarnished. Everything he's left behind is totally tarnished. It's rotten. It's stinky. It's stinky. And of course, when he funds the likes of Bob Moore, which is uh, what does President Trump call it? A real uh, oh gosh, I forgot the name. Uh, you know, really bad person. Um, and I'll get it. But he has a very bad name, disgraced, and um, call you can call him so many names, and he would absolutely it would it defines him, right? Bob Moore is defined by his biased and very evil actions. So and so this uh, it's very different when you see the names that are given to Richard: loyal, distinguished honor graduate, a national hero, deserving of all honor, um, courageous. You could just go beloved son. You could go down the list. That defines who he is. And so that means a lot to us. And we want our son's remains. We want our son's remains, and we want accountability, because those that did this to him and to us are cowards, are traitors, are treasonous, are compromised, are greedy, are stinky, are biased, are serving foreign and domestic enemies, disloyal, dishonest, disgraceful. Um, so you can really say that about Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. You can say that about Woody Hunt. You can say that about Bob Moore. You can say that even worse things um, about so many others in this, because that's what defines them. That's reality. That's who they are. And they're going to go down in history as, oh, yeah, real scum, real scum. Yeah, that's what they're going to go down in history for. And, and that matters. That matters a lot to eternity. And we believe in eternity in our family. We believe in um, our name. And so we've worked very, very hard to figure out why they were lying. And there's mountains of evidence. And now we have, uh, you know, Kyle Eswick. We have, of course, the Harts, Leilani Hart, who has multiple names. She has multiple names because she never likes the definition of who she is, because she is just the picture and the definition of evil. With the even though she confesses, because she's always trying to get away from who she is, a harasser, a threatener, a deceiver, a liar, a manipulator, an extortionist, facilitator of the worst type of crimes against children. And so that's why they have to reinvent their names all the time to get away from the defining names that they have uh, built around themselves and on themselves, over themselves, under themselves. They are surrounded by their own evil deeds and definitions, true definitions of who they are. And she's a prime suspect in the murder of our son. And she was very intimate with her cousin, former Fort Bliss CID agent Tavita Nusa, who we have evidence that he confessed to hurting Richard, and of course he is also a prime suspect. And they worked together with Leilani Hart and with Dallas Hart. Dallas Hart is the prime of the prime suspects because he was Richard's platoon leader. But when you go and talk to people about Dallas Hart, um, unless they are scared to death and paid, the coach was afraid to get into any kind of cartel activity he might be retaliated against. Um, there weren't any kind definitions for Dallas Hart either. Um, when you have your own mother calling you out for the worst type of crimes committed against children, uh, in possession of films of the worst type of crimes against children, um, acts that are illegal sexual acts with brothers and with your father. Those kinds of names, they get very vile and vulgar. And those are just some of the uh, very degrading um, names that are given to Dallas Hart. Nobody had anything nice to say about him except for, uh, you know, uh, like I guess Amber Chase. Amber Chase. That tells you everything right there. That tells you everything right there. I don't even have to go on because of mortuary affairs, right? Because of the mortuary affairs. And Tavita Nusa, his cousin, uh, is from that kind of Samoan um, obligation or the whole mortuary affairs. And his brother, Tavita Nusa, I mean, Tavita Nusa has training, a surgical training. And then, of course, Solomone Nusa uh, for the United States Army was given the place, and I don't know why he was given the place of being mortuary, having power over mortuary operations of our sons and daughters. I don't know why, unless there's some fraud going on, and unless there's some compromise going on within the HR and with these generals, whoever pulls strings for this, because um, there is absolute fraud going on and tampering with the remains of our soldiers. And this is why, we want our son's remains. Um, and we haven't stopped at exposing each layer as we go. The the crimes that are there, that there is absolutely a dead body trafficking network going on, exploiting the deaths of our sons and daughters, and profiting off of it. And so it's no mistake that Tavita Noosa's brother, Solomon Noosa, was a major in the United States Army for mortuary operations, and that the worst type of harassers and threateners and on was from mortuary affairs, was from the funeral business. Um, they were absolutely uh, cashing in on the death of our sons and daughters, and that's why uh, it was very strange to us that there were three autopsies for Richard. Um, we were just floored by that, but now we understand it, because, of course, we know that Mario Raskin Ortiz, the chief medical examiner, is up to no good. He's illegally in this country. He's not authorized. He was brought in by Veronica Escobar, who's absolutely up to no good and part of this criminal group. And then, of course, you have Delia Briones. She was kind of like the missing piece for the longest time. We didn't even think about her until new evidence came out. And she's really the key player, because you can't, let me make sure I turn this off, because you really can't have um, uh, all of this cross border funeral death, cashing in on the death, cashing in on COVID death, cashing in on USA death, cashing in on selling bodies to the same body to multiple funeral homes so they can all cash in on that one same body. Um, Using humanitarian aid, using NGOs, um, using Mexican humanitarian aid. Um, then, of course, on this side, when you have a soldier, that's really worth a lot of money because of the SGLI, the insurance, 400,000, 500,000, even. Um, and of course there's added monies to that, and that's why you have this network where you have Veronica Escobar, you have Delia Briones, you have, of course, 3905 Bliss Avenue, which is just all funeral related. Of course, then you have James Courtney Hart in the VA, the Veterans Administration, IDES Pablo, which is the death benefits, the disabled benefits, all of that comes out of there. Um, so this is absolutely uh, another trafficking. When I said criminal trafficking, it was absolutely right. You can't really just say child trafficking or women trafficking or weapons trafficking or substance trafficking or um, car parts trafficking. Um, you can't say fuel trafficking. You can't say just one of those. It is criminal trafficking. Anything that wasn't screwed down to concrete, they tried to or did traffic, and that included even death. And so this is it's all very clear why they had to have someone in the hospital in Texas Tech um, um, Health Science Center, which is part, the Taurus connection, the Dr. Melissa Mendez connection. Of course, you have the medical examiner's office, and then of course you have the county clerk's office that gives it the stamps and the seals, but they're not stamps and seals to certify, really. They're stamps and seals for receipts of the fraud. That's what it is. And so they just tamper, and we know evidence confirms that they've been tampering with government records. And so, and of course, they need people in law enforcement. And, uh, CBP, or, Bill Hicks being the lawyer for Purchase Funeral Homes. You can't make that one up. So they absolutely were trafficking death, selling bodies to multiple funeral homes, giving families mortar dust in urns, saying that they cremated those bodies while they're selling them off to other homes. That's why this is going to be so complicated, because these bodies were being passed around, okay? And there's more than just the Plenitude crematorium. We believe that that one is the one that has our son's partial remains. And that's why they had to, that's why they did dismember Richard, because he was worth so much. And so they just passed around parts of his body. That is our suspicion, because of all the evidence that we have. And if you don't think this is easy for us to say all of this, you're wrong. This is absolute hell, because of them having found parts to declare, to get a autopsy and say, okay, we positively identified him, we can pay out SGLI, and then send parts um, to say, oh, this is an unidentified migrant that died of COVID. And then that costs extra money, right? And then they'd make money and then send parts over to Mexico. This is an unidentified migrant. Um, and you just don't know how many times they've sold it out to make this kind of money. And it is really despicable. And of course, Plenitude Crematorium was also a cartel dumping ground, a disposal area for those that they've tortured. It's been confirmed that that they had torture activities, um, and so this was absolutely a cartel operation, and it's tied to the Pan Party, right? The Pan Party. Um, and the Pan Party is the Sinaloa Party from the Chapitos, and that is governor of Chihuahua, um, Maru Campos, and then her mother was the one that was supposed to oversee, but she just ignored, right? She was in charge of that kind of agency, and her name is Maria Eugenia Galvan. And that those names are very, very interesting, because we've there's a lot of connections in Richard's case to that. But all of that is also connected to the Walmart mass shooting, because the Walmart mass shooting was uh, a response to reports that Richard made about the criminal trafficking. And so um, they and President Trump, really, it was mainly President Trump's election coming in 2016, winning that election. During that election in November 2016, we were in Israel at the time. with a group of really good friends, touring. That's where we were with Richard. It was magnificent, had a great time, sailing on the Sea of Galilee and doing all kinds of wonderful things. We voted through mail, of course, because we were overseas, and and we were very far away from El Paso, right? We're very far away, but not President Trump. He knew that there were border problems. He knew in 2017, they were shocked that he came in, and that he won the election. And they had, and now it's confirmed that even in 2016, right away, the intelligence agencies were conspiring and plotting against him, conspiring and plotting against him. Why? Because they had a lot to lose. It's kind of like this whole thing with the state trooper. Um, if you don't have anything to lose, if you're doing okay, why are you going to conspire and risk everything? And they conspired. They absolutely fabricated um, a an attack on President Trump. It was a mutiny, and this included military leaders, and it was absolutely a mutiny because he was auditing what he knew, uh, uh, that he was suspicious of all of the criminal trafficking. And what they did to Richard wasn't something new. James Courtney Hart was in there in the VA for many years, up to no good. And Bill Hicks has been Purchase's lawyer, Purchase Funeral Homes lawyer for many years. And the whole thing with Raphael Quran, he's been up to no good for many, many years. I mean, he had a home right next to Beto O'Rourke. Um, so this Plenitude Crematorium had, been going on for a long time. And uh, so the criminal trafficking, the criminal network had already developed, and it was being audited. And President Trump was turning off the spigots. And they then conspired in El Paso to orchestrate the Walmart mass shooting. And I'm not just getting that out of the air. Evidence confirms with Beto O'Rourke, with Ernest Christopher Grant, with the cartel, and with many others that, including Patrick Crusius, that and the Mayellas. Of course, the Mayellas are big players in this. They all need to go to jail or worse, or worse. I feel like they need to get the death penalty for what they've done because it is. It's a mass shooting after all, right? It's a mass shooting after all, and the true culprits are still yet at large, right? At large, um, and it is very when you look at all of the evidence and knowing Delia Briones's position in all of this and Kyle Eswick's position in all of this, um, connecting to Fort Bliss once again, and 3905 group position and part in all of this, connecting Richard's unit to the Walmart mass shooting orchestration, then it's very clear that the level of attacks that we have gotten, the level of harassment and everything that Richard got, and that has continued for 5 years at the highest levels. You're talking General Kelly. You're, you're talking about a CAO being sicked on us. Um, that doesn't happen unless you have generals at the very top level. And so this Walmart mass shooting was agreed upon. It was agreed upon, and it was bloody. And it was to divert attention from the uh, uh, divert the time and the resources also of the law enforcement away from the audits and investigations into all the illegal border criminality, and just really focus all power onto this um, Walmart mass shooting. Very clear. And we've been sharing most of all the evidence that we have on it, and it is just jaw dropping. Just the Mayella family alone, and their involvement in the Walmart cybersecurity. That's control of cameras. Um, in the DA's office, that's controlling the files and tampering. Um, in the FBI office, also having control over files and information. And then in the federal courthouse itself, having control over the case. And then also in mental health. In mental health, Lorraine Mayella, and and uh, they were giving free mental health evaluation. Well, I would say counseling, mental health counseling to the victims' families, right? Victims and victims' families. And what that did is that was counterintelligence, wasn't it? It was counterintelligence, kind of like what Ray Velarde did to Richard. So, everything makes sense now, with Delia Briones being in there to give the stamp of legitimacy, which was really fraudulent, um, so that they could do what they were doing. Without her, they couldn't do what they were doing. And so, if you see her being walked away in handcuffs in the near future, then you'll understand because she's a huge, huge uh, leader in this, not just a player, but a leader. So this is really, I know we're going to have Labor Day weekend. That's why I put up my mom's PTA, um, and enjoying a little bit of time together is a wonderful thing. But we labor on and labor on to get accountability and to get our sons' remains. There's really no time for sleep, I always say. Um, but uh, the cause is absolutely worth it because, um, the transparency, isn't it? Isn't it like jaw dropping to know all of this, what's going on, and that they were using taxpayers' money to fund it all? To fund it all. Can you believe it? To fund all that criminal trafficking, the very evil, evil essence of it, they were using taxpayer money. And El Paso has some of the highest property taxes in the nation, and that was funneling evil, absolute evil, and it still is, right? So I think that's why it's so important to keep laboring on to get this out there because the taxpayer needs to know and have that transparency because they're paying for it. They're being exploited for it. For all of the humanitarian aid and the U.S. aid that's being misused, for the military that's being misused. Um, it's just very important for people to know so that because they don't have to put up with it because those agencies work for us. They work for us, and that's why they're using our taxpayer money. Um, but we had no idea. At least I didn't have any idea. I didn't have any idea that they were so evil and using it for evil intentions like that. to make millions and millions and probably billions and billions with all the criminal trafficking, especially with Kyle Eswick being the fuel distributor. That's like, oh man, that's like understanding everything, isn't it? Dreams Cabaret being right beside FedEx and Texas Department of Transportation, and the empty lot, you can't make that up. You know, and this is none of this is coincidence because it's just too much of it. It's too much. It's very organized. It was a very organized criminal trafficking network, and we need accountability, and we need to end it. We need to end it, and that's where the tunnels can come in. Our long history with uh, uh, White Sands and El Paso, I knew I didn't have to be told twice or that there were tunnels underneath El Paso and that there's tunnels underneath schools at the border. Of course there are. Of course there are, because schools are a place where it's very active with cars. And if you need to move cars, if you need to do trafficking, you'd want it to be there because no red flags would be really waved if you saw vans coming in and out of there and children coming in and out of there. uh, you know, um, it wouldn't raise too many flags. So um, I think it's very important to get this transparency out for the people of El Paso so that the criminality can be stopped. And it can be stopped. So thank you so much, everyone. Um, Thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow.